Okay, we are ready. All right, welcome. Happy Friday. It's finally sunny here in Napoleon, so hopefully where you guys are, it is sunny. It hasn't been this way for a bit. I'm Andrea Beam, and I'll be going over the Friday or fiscal's year-end review, getting ready for STRS Advance, our favorite time of the year. So hopefully it all goes smoothly for everyone this coming fiscal year. So I'm going to be going back between my PowerPoint and the checklist. So hopefully I don't confuse you too much. And also I just wanted to show here under where you can find our training materials, which is under our main page and under the SSD meetings and trainings. And then way down here, under the year-end meeting materials, you will find the 2025 fiscal year-end. And if you click on that, that will take you to our fiscal year-end. We'll update this after today. And then here you will find the presentation that I'm using today. Taking it out. So that is what I'm going to be using today. And it's just a little bit more detailed than what our checklist is that we have on our documentation. So again, if you want to use that for anything that you have questions on, hopefully that will help. We also have our, I added the 2025 publication 15B for this coming year. Also, we have here the STRS calculating service credit. That would be for like your part-time or how they come up with that part-time percentage. And then the service guidelines for this year. I added the new brochure here, so you can go ahead and take a look at that when you're in your free time. And then also I have the annual reporting record layout here, which is the same every year, but that is here. If you have questions for any of your third party, like Renhill, that you have districts that have to merge with their STRS file before they send it on and submit their STRS Advance file for the fiscal year. And then also we have our documentation link that will take you directly to our STRS Advance chapter. And then also the STRS Advanced definition is the mass change definition, which I will be going over later in today. But this is just the mass change that you can save to your computer and upload it to the mass change if you need to use it. So we have it located right here for you already. Okay. So that is where you'll find most of the information that we're going to be going over today. And then what we're going to be going over is our checklist. Again, you can find that here under our appendix in our documentation for USPS documentation, appendix checklist, and then USPS fiscal checklist. And again, this is located with all our other checklists that we have, our month end, quarter end, calendar end. So that's all underneath checklist. Okay. Go back. There we go. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll get started. So the first thing we're going to be going over is the pre-closing step list. So the first thing is we're going to process, we're going to be going over any life insurance premium payments that are going to need to be added before the very last pay for that employee if they're retiring. And if that was missed, then we'll be going over the adjustments that you're going to have to do under core adjustments, the steps on that to get that included before you run the STRS Advance. Then we're going to be running through all the STRS Advance reports. We're going to be going through the STRS Advance configuration, making sure that before your district start, they want to make sure everything is 0. And then the advanced mode is unchecked from this previous fiscal year 24. Again, that should be all done already. The district should have been looking into that at the end of last August is when they should have been checking that and making sure that they didn't have any earnings that need to be removed from that was fiscal year 24 and needed to contact STRS to let them know that that is going towards the fiscal year 24. So again, we strongly suggest that they add that to their a checklist. If they do a per payroll checklist at the end of their last pay in advance, to make sure they don't forget to do that step. Very important. So that way they don't have to do it now and start to panic that that is not zero and Y. So the first thing we're going to be going over is the cost life insurance over 50,000. So again, this needs to be calculated for any employees that are retiring as of June 30th. We want to get this payment in through payroll, current or future. It's just a lot easier. The system does it all for you. You don't have to do any adjustments. And you don't have to go and try to figure out the adjustments that you have to enter if it was missed. So again, on our checklist, here's our checklist. So if you're using future or payroll current, I already have a payroll in process. So I will go ahead and just add a current here so you can see. And I'm using this employee as my example. So I'm just going in and adding this for my employee. And you want pay type of life insurance, his main position, 1. And then once you figure out that calculation of what that insurance should be, then you go ahead and add that amount in as a rate. You can do a description of NC1, and then it always is not, it does not apply to retirement. So again, if you try to save it, it's not going to let you anyways. So it's not going to be a mistake that you're going to have a retirement calculated on it, and then you have to do a correction. So it will not let you anyways. So if I go ahead and save that, which I'm not because I already have everything calculated to what I need it to be. So, but that is where you would add that, and then you would save it. So I'm not going to save that though, because I need to move on with, make sure, because I have all my reports already ready to go. Once you add that though, you're going to be able to see that in your, when you run your pay report, you're going to see the life insurance premium right down here for that $50 under pay type totals. So you can use that for your balancing, and also for in your pay summary, pay amount summary report during payroll. That's also going to be showed it here under the other 50. That is our life insurance. And then also the all pays total. That's going to be included in that amount too. So here's an example also of the life insurance for future in the PowerPoint that you can use if you need to go back, and then the current that I just did. So again, it's going to be added if you use it during payroll, it's going to be added to the total and applicable gross for that employee for W-2 purposes, even though no tax is going to be withheld. So then, so again, no federal, state, OSC taxes are withheld on that, but Medicare and FICA will be. So the system will do it for you during payroll and get that Medicare calculated on that NC1 payment. Again, if they have city tax, then the only way that the payroll is going to look at that city for that employee is if they have that core payroll item configuration tax non-cash earning box checked. So I will go here to my STRS, and then if you go to payroll item configuration and find that city for that employee, and you just kind of, you can open it up here and you can see if it's checked or not. If it's not checked, then they don't tax non-cash earnings. If it is checked, then yes, they do tax non-cash earnings. Again, if you're have been set up for years on their districts and they have no new employees that brought in a new city, then you probably, everything is probably correct already. But again, they can double check. Maybe the city has changed that within the year that they are taxing non-cash earnings. So again, they may just want to double check that with their cities to verify if they do or don't. Okay, so then we're moving on. If the districts forget to post that premium prior to the employee's last pay of the fiscal year and they're retiring. Because if they're not retiring, they can do it at the end of the calendar year too. But if they're retiring, you definitely want to get it in there. So what they will need to do is do adjustments. And I have a couple here ready for my one employee as an example. Larry Goodwin here. I had to add my life insurance. So when you're adding the core life insurance adjustments, the W-2 report, by using this life insurance under federal tax, I can show you here. I just selected the insurance, enter the amount of my insurance, and my description under the 001. And what that does is adds that amount to the employee's total and applicable gross for federal, state, OSDI, and Medicare. So no adjustments need to be made, again, to that applicable gross. Again, it's only going to look at city if the employee does have city, like I said before, if that tax non-cash earning box is checked. So then at this point, Medicare has to be calculated on this amount. That's the only thing, and the city, if they do have the tax non-cash earnings, which I'll go over here for this employee. So we have to figure out what is the amount of this life insurance for Medicare on that $100. So if this employee did have that city tax marked as non-cash earnings, go ahead and figure that $100, if it's a percentage for that city is 1%, and then the employee owes $1 for that city tax. So then they can go ahead and add a adjustment to the core adjustment for that dollar for the city tax withheld. And then the employee would have to pay the district that dollar for that. For the Medicare, now they will want to go ahead and figure out the 1% or the 1.45% on the $100, which is $1.45. So then they would go ahead into core adjustments. They select the employee, add a $692 Medicare for the amount withheld for the $1.45, and then also for the board's amount of payroll items. So this is if the employee pays their portion and the board pays the part 1.45%, no pickup. This is just normal employees. But if your employee is Medicare pickup, which most of the time they are, if they get that life insurance most of the time, then they're going to have to figure out what that amount is. So let me get this a little bigger here so you can see. It's hard to see a little bit. So to figure that out, you want to take the life insurance times divide by the 98.55%. So that equals your 101.47, which is the applicable gross. And then times that 0.029, which is just 0.14 times 2. So that gets us the $2.94, which the board owes for that employee. Okay, so you want to go ahead and add the $1.47. Can't. What's the? Maybe that's it. Wants to move on me. You want to add the federal tax again for under federal tax 001 code life insurance for $100. So you want to make sure it's just 100. You don't want to do the 101.47, just the 100 for that life insurance for that Medicare pickup. And then you want to add the $1.47 to the board's pickup amount of payroll item. So you're going to have two adjustments here, plus you're going to have an adjustment for board's amount of payroll item for $1.47. What that does, this updates the 941 quarter report under the quarter to date employer's Medicare contribution. So that way you're in balance under the 941 totals. Then also to get your applicable gross correct for the W-2 taxable gross for the Medicare on the employee's W-2, you need to add under 692 for that employee an applicable gross for $1.47. And again, that will balance your W-2. So then I do have an adjustments here for Goodwin. And I have my life insurance, my applicable gross for the $1.47, board's pickup amount for $1.47, and the board's amount of payroll. Okay. Pretty simple on that one. All right, so the next, just a reminder, when you're balancing on the USAS side, when that is not included in the total gross, what is charged to USAS on the payroll submission file. So just a reminder on that, if they're off, double check probably that could be what it is. So again, I went through where the pay report shows the pay type totals for NC1, the pay amount summary report, and which is located under the other pay and all pay. And also on the quarter report, I just did run one here. You can see where the non-cash earnings is listed here. So those would be for both under non-cash earnings. If you ran it during payroll and if you added it in adjustments, it will show here. But you will be off like for the $100 for Goodwin because I added it through adjustments. So you're going to have this error then, calculated adjusted gross difference because of that. So just a reminder on that, only if you add in adjustments will you get this difference. If you run it through payroll, you shouldn't have a difference.
Andrea, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. Is there, if you scroll up and look at this employee's actual piece on the quarter report here, do you still have the bug that it's putting that in the employee amount and throwing the totals off for the quarter? So it's right here. Yes. So you see that 101.47 that's in that employee contribution, and that's throwing things off.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. Because when we're doing that entry, we don't have a way to say to applicable gross, say, hey, this goes towards the employee's 692 of the board pickup applicable gross. And we do have a juror issue out there for that. And I think that they're going to try to get that fixed before fiscal year end. I'm not sure, but I can double check. Lori, I don't know if Lori's on, if she can double check if that's something on her next, one of the releases coming up before fiscal year end. If not, we could put a bug into Mark and see if he can get that fixed. But good question. Thank you. So yes, you can see right here that it definitely did add correctly. It should be all under the 692 employer pickup. But again, we don't have a checkbox to say, hey, this applicable gross goes to this employee pickup. So they just have to remember to add these two together and they should get that amount that is the correct amount. So thank you for that question. That's good to let everybody know that. Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay. Another thing you can do to make sure you got all your life insurance added for the employees for if you do adjustments and you have quite a few that you forgot before the last payroll, you can go into adjustments here and you have the life insurance here of type, just type in life insurance. And I only have one because of my testing, but you can, and if you have 50 employees that you had to add by accident because they forgot, they can go ahead and double check and run a report. So they can make sure they have all their employees entered before they start doing their advance. So they don't forget. So again, and then they can run that report. So just a little tip there that they can always double check that. Okay. Moving on to the next. Okay, the ITC checklist here. So we did our life insurance. Now we're doing our STRS advanced reports and just getting ready and running them and double checking them all. So next thing on our pre-closing is running this non-advanced positions report. And what this one is reports all the positions that are non-advancing. So these would be all your employees that would probably work over the summer months that have days that they work. The advanced positions would be all your teachers, any other ones that don't work over the summer months, but they have accrued wages to get paid over the summer months. So those are going to be your advanced position employees. And then also any the advanced fiscal year-to-date report, and that would be anybody that was paid in STRS for the fiscal year. That should be all your totals of everybody that paid into STRS. Okay. Okay. The one thing you want to make sure is on the service days for employees, making sure that the job calendars plus any attendance and absence days are entered and they are correct for the employee. Make sure they have a pay date stamp on them and to be included in that count. So again, double check those if the days seem to be off. Maybe check their days on the attendance record to make sure they're pay stamped. The only ones that won't be pay stamped is your doc days, because the report uses, they don't use the same search for that. They use this activity date and they never have a pay stamp date on that. But I think we do have a jury issue out there to add pay stamps to the doc days, but it doesn't look at those. So those would be okay. Okay. So now that you're starting your advanced reports, again, one thing you want to make sure, especially if you're a new district coming on that has transferred over from another system or something, you want to make sure that this box here on the STRS Advanced Configuration is checked. This box is very important. We don't want this unchecked because if this box is unchecked, the only time you should have it unchecked is if your district does not do STRS Advance. That's the only time this box should be unchecked. And I don't think there may be one district in Ohio maybe that we have that does that, that doesn't do the STRS Advance. Because then they cannot start their first payroll in July. And that's very important because if they run STRS Advance or they're in the process of running STRS Advance, they don't complete it and start their first pay in July, then their employees will not be marked as advanced employees. And then all that money is going towards their new fiscal year of 26. And we don't want that. So making sure that that is checked. So here you want to, I can show you here under systems, configuration, STRS Advance. So make sure this box is checked. This will not let them post or even they can run a payroll. They can start it, but I don't think they can post it. Yeah. So they got to make sure that that's checked. Okay. Next thing. So then after that is all done, then you're going to go on to your month-end closing steps. So again, those are just your normal routine steps. You can go ahead and just click here and it takes you to the month-end here. I'm not going to go over those because those are the same. And again, the quarter-end closing steps, those are the same also. The only thing that is extra that you have to do every fiscal year are these two reports, wage obligation report and STRS report, and also the auditor of the state. So you want to make sure those reports are ran too. And I have that here in our checklist, and I also have it here in our PowerPoint. Here we go. So you want to create your STRS liability report, and because this will be used by the district's auditor, so they want to make sure they run that wage obligation by employee. And again, it also the wage obligation reports do go out to file archive once they close June. But if they want to run a report, just in case, sometimes things happen, it doesn't go out to file archive and they don't have the report. So this is just a double, you know, you can have it save it on your desktop just in case. Same with this the surcharge report that can be ran anytime, but the auditor's report is very important, that wage obligation. So you would want to make sure you go to the reports and the wage obligation and run that by employee. And I don't know if I have one. I don't think I do. I thought I ran one. Oh yeah, right here. So here's my wage obligation report. So then you can go ahead and you can keep that and save that just in case. And then I ran a surcharge report. And again, you want to run like the wage obligation report as of date calculations as the 6/30. And again, you can run it to include positions of archived if you like, and you can run it by any sort by name or number. And then the other one was the surcharge report. Here we are. And again, you want to make sure your fiscal year is 25, and then you can sort it by any of these options. Include subtotal by selected sort option if you like, and then you can also run it by CSV or PDF. I do have one here that I already ran. So this is what your surcharge report looks like. All your employees. And then they'll have that once they get that, I don't know if you call it a bill, but report from SERS, what each district owes for their employees that are on the list, and they can double check that with this. So they can save that. Okay. The other one was the auditor of the state report. Again, this might be already done in your report bundles. So if you do have that already set up, that already be sent, and then that will go directly to your file archive and audit reports. But if you do not have that set up yet, if you're a newer district, you can still run that at the end here by going to reports and auditor of the state. And again, by employee report, payment report, and you can go ahead and save those. So your start date is for your fiscal years. So 7/1 of 24 is our beginning of our fiscal year 25 and the end, 6/30 of 2025. And if I generate that, I'd probably take too long probably, but no, it didn't take too long. So here's kind of what it looks like. I already had one, what the report looks like. So then they can save that. Okay, so those are the reports that you might need at the end of June. So those three are important. Okay, so we'll move on then. So in our checklist, we did our wage obligation, SERS, and our auditor of the state. Okay. So now we're going to start verifying and balancing all of our SERS advanced reports. So at this time, you can start running them again. And you find those under reports, SERS reporting, and SERS advance. So again, your year will always be 7/1 through 24 to 6/30 of 25. That's our whole fiscal year 25. And then creating your reports, all three. And I have them ran already. So our advanced fiscal year report will be our first one. So here's an example of my fiscal year to date report. Okay. So again, you also want to consider before you start processing any of your STRS advance, if you're going to have early contract payoffs. Some of your employees might be retiring as of in beginning of June or in August after their final pay, maybe teachers. So you want to go ahead and make sure you change the pays and contract so they pay off correctly. And then that amount will be included in that STRS advance correctly. If it is missed and you already ran them through advance and the last pay advance, they might have to do corrections. They'll probably be off. So, and then they'll have to let STRS know. But so again, going to compensate, change the pays and contracts. So it is less if you know that they're not going to go to the full 24 or the full 26 pays. Any docs through the summer. So if you know anybody that is going to have docs through the summer months, you're going to want to make sure you enter those now before advance the payroll payments in future. So maybe the next pay in July, the first pay in July, then you can start having those docs. Again, you can use an effective date on the future pay if, you can't hardly see that, can you? If they have if they know that they're going to be maybe the second pay in July, they can use an effective day. So that's inclusive of that payroll and it will pick that up. So just make sure all the docs are in. So running the balance reports, again, like I said, make sure your date is the correct fiscal year 25 dates. And the next. So the first one, the advanced fiscal year. Again, like I said before, it's going to list all your STRS withholdings for all employees through the year that had withholdings. The position for the employee must have the retirement system set to STRS. So anybody new, go here to positions. And this is where you'll find that code. Right here. Retirement code. So that report is looking at that code there. Plus it's looking at any earnings for the employee through the whole fiscal years. So again, it's looking for the sum of three things. So you have your advancing compensations. So the accrued wages will be added to the earnings. So it takes the accrued wages equals your contract obligation minus your amount paid minus amount doc equals your accrued wages. And then any adjustment journals that were added, it will pick those up if it has a total, if it's equaling total gross and a payroll item code equaling 591 or the 691 for STRS pickup. Within that transaction date that falls within that fiscal year of 7/1/24 to 6/30/25. So the other thing, you want to make sure that having a compensation date, if like teachers, you want to make sure that the teachers don't have a stop date like of 6/9, even though that might be their last considered work day, they're still accruing, they still are going to get paid through the summer months till probably middle August. So they got to still have that stop date, compensation stop date in that August. So that has to be inclusive of their last pay in order for the contract to pay out fully. So if they don't, then they might be showing earnings on the fiscal year to date report, but they're not going to show up on the other two reports. So again, double check that to make sure that the districts have that compensation stop date correctly. All right, so there's my fiscal year end report. And then their report totals. And we'll be going through each of those here shortly of where these are coming from. The next thing to verify is the service credit. So this would be for full-time and part-time. So any employees with 120 more days, they're going to receive the 100% credit. Any of your employees that are part-time that are checked on the payroll item 450, full or part-time, this box here on the 450, this is what that's going to be going off of. So under core payroll items. And then if you go to 450 here, you're going to see this full or part-time box. This is what that is looking at. So then the system says, okay, it's part-time, and then it does the calculation to get their percentage. Now, if they're questioning the percentage, we do have the calculating here. If you control click, actually takes you directly to the calculating service credits. You just do, like I said, control and click on that. And here it will give them what that percentage is and how they should figure that out. Now, if they have questions, again, and they can send the question on to you. And if you have questions or issues, you can contact us and we can see if we can, we usually can figure out how it's being calculated. If not, then they need to contact STRS and ask them. But we can definitely help if you have questions on that. Again, any re-employed retirees will always have 0% credit. So if they are marked as retired on right here on the STRS and have a rehire date, they're going to be they're not going to show any percentage. Let's see if I can find one here. Thought I had one. My Heath. Where are you? Right here. My Cody Heath. He is retired. And you see he has 0%. And if you do have 0% on some of these and they're not retired, then they definitely need to check into those. Okay. The other thing to check if you're a new district coming on, they want to make sure that the STRS configuration, the state minimum salary is set to $35,000. And where you can find that is under systems, configuration, and STRS configuration, 35,000, because that is going to be the state-based minimum salary. So you need to make sure that is in here before you start running your advanced reports. But again, any district that has been on the system, that should be there already, but just to double check. Okay. The next, the advanced fiscal year to date report. This is the breakdown of where these figures coming from. So the first box here of the non-tax earnings and the non-tax advance amount. The non-tax earnings is the fiscal year to date gross amount, and this is coming from the 450 payroll items fields. And then the non-tax advance amount, this is coming from the retirement amount that will be withheld on the summer pays per the per pay compensation basis. So the calculation on that. The next box is go too far, the taxed earnings. Again, these are probably going to be zero because most of the STRS contributions are annuitized. And again, same for the tax advance amount. So again, these probably should be zero. If they aren't, then you may have your just to double check that. The next box here is the tax and non-tax earnings. This is the amount paid to STRS during the fiscal year plus the amount advance. So this is going to be the total. So what was paid during the year, also what is going to be paid over the summer. And then the amount advance is what is the calculated amount that's going to be over the summer months. And then the regular pickup will be your tax and non-tax retiree pickup amount. Or minus, excuse me, minus retiree pickup amount. For the next box here, the non-tax deposit pickup, again, that would be your payments for STRS for the 591 and 691. This was over the fiscal year. So that is just what was paid in over the fiscal year so far. And then the non-tax total, this is your non-tax deposit pickup plus your total advance amount. So non-tax should be your same over here. Again, these should be zero because STRS contributions are annuitized. So again, double check if you do have figures in that. They want to look into that. And then the last box here, the retiree amount advance, the rehired retiree count, retiree contributions, and the retiree pickup. Just lets you know how many employees are retired, how much your retiree amount advance will be, how much the contributions, and then the retiree pickup amount. So again, specific to those employees whose 450 is set as rehired retiree checkbox. So again, you want to make sure if you have retiree employees that came in this fiscal year, they want to make sure that they have that retiree box checked. Also, they want to make sure that date is correct. Because if not, that can throw off the report and they're going to throw errors on the fiscal year to date report. So the next one is the advance report. Again, this is only going to list all employees that have accrued contributions calculated. So here is the advance report. And then you'll see all my employees on the advance report. Again, it's looking at that STRS retirement code on that position. It's set to STRS. And they must have a status of active or inactive on that position. The employees must have a contract compensation with a date range that falls within that current date of the fiscal year. And then the compensation contract work days must equal the contract days work. So again, those two have to equal in order for it to advance onto the report. Or the compensation work days must equal the contract days work as of June 30th. So again, it's determined by using those work days on that employee's job calendar. So definitely take a look at the job calendar. The contract work days must be greater than 0. The compensations pays paid must be less than the pays and contract. So again, maybe they're on their 26th pay by the end of June. And then, so they have those remaining pays till the 24th or 26th pay. The compensation contract obligation minus amount paid minus amount docked must be greater than 0. So again, double check that if they are not advancing. And then any archive compensations, they will not show on the STRS advanced report. So if you're missing employees, maybe something happened, they got archived by accident, double check employees if they got advanced. Or excuse me, if they got archived. Okay. So what if you run the STRS non-advanced report, or you see on the STRS advanced, there's an employee missing, and you look on the non-advanced and you say, oh, this employee should be advancing. Okay, so I have an employee here that had 183 and but he only worked 182 so far. So I need this employee to advance and get off the non-advanced report. So I was just going to do an example here. So what you do is go to that employee's compensation. And here, oh, nope, Keith. EGATH. And then I go to that compensation, and down here, you're going to see this, where There we go. You see the compensation adjustments. This is where we can get that employee to advance by adding one workday. So now this employee is advancing and it's going to fall off my advance, this the non-advance report. And I do have that in here. So now when I rerun that non-advance report, he is off of the non-advance. And then when I go over to my SIRS advance, I already had ran, he is on there now. There he is, Cody Heath. Where are you? Right here, Cody Heath. So now he's on my report to advance. So that is how you can get your non-advance corrections if you need to. Okay, so on to the next. The advanced physicians report. This is just an example again of your non-advance physician report. Shows the credit, the contract amount due, which is going to be due over the summer months, and then this calculation on that earnings. And then down here is the report totals, just tells you the total of the contract amount due for all advancing employees and how much the total advance withholdings will be. And then how many employees. So I have total of 44 employees advancing. I have one rehired retiree on it. And then total of all employees with advanced jobs is 40. Okay. So an example of how do we come up with this amount here, the STRS advance. And how that is done, you take your obligation, so you go to employees compensation, and you take the contract obligation amount, you take the pay per period of what they get paid, and then what is remaining. I have pays 26, I have 22 remaining. So I have 4 pays remaining throughout the summer. So you take that 23rd pay times the 24, which is that pay per period times the 14%. You do that for the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. So then on the last 26th pay, you take your total contract obligation minus how much it's been paid up to that 26th pay. So far he's been paid $58,998. So the remaining amount is $23,360. So you can see that's a little different here. And then it takes that times 14% to get the 30.40. And if you add all those together, you get my 1321.57, which matches exactly what I have here. So that is how that system is coming up with that amount. So if they have questions, they can go through this calculation to see if they can figure it out first.
Andrea,
sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. But I'm going to back you up for just a couple slides where if someone is showing on the non-advanced and you need to get them on the advanced report where you give them a day worked, wouldn't you also give them amount earned?
If it's off, yeah. I mean, if it's off, I was just an example for the days, but if the amount, if they were paid incorrectly for something, I mean, if it was off and you notice that the amount earned is off, then yes, they will have to make sure that amount was correct. Now, example for this employee, I guess everything was correct except for the day because I did the calculations and he was correct for his amount earned and everything. So, but yes, you may have to make sure that their amount earned is correct. So then they would have to do that amount earned, which would correct their accrued wages then too. If that's the case, correct. Yes.
Okay, because I've never had an instance where their days worked, where their amount earned was correct, but their days worked were not correct.
Gotcha.
So that threw me off for a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for bringing that up. Appreciate that. Okay, any other questions on that? Okay. Let's see. What's our next one here? Okay. Okay. So the next one is our non-advanced reports. Again, the employee's position retirement code should be set to STRS, and the position again must have an active or inactive job status. The position must have a contract compensation. Legacy that was back from classic days, so we'll have to update this and remove those. Employee must have a contract with a date range that falls within that current date range, the fiscal year. The compensation paid must be less than the pays in contract. The compensation contract work days must be greater than 0. The compensation contract days worked does not equal the contract work days. So make sure if they need to be on non-advanced, then those days should not be equaling. Only people that are advancing will have those two equaling. Okay, and again, this is all determined by those work days on the job calendar as of June 30th. So here's an example of the non-advanced report for my one employee, the obligation in days in contract. So again, if they have questions, your districts, again, we have this to our STRS advanced documentation, or they can go to and ask STRS if they have any issues, if they need to be advanced or not. And then also we have, if they have errors or warnings on their reports, again, they can use our documentation to help with that. We have all our errors and warnings down here that let them tell them pretty much how to fix them. And if they still have questions, they can definitely let you at the ITC know or pass it on to us. Okay, so let's see where we are in my checklist here. Went through all the reports. Okay, so we're at our next to generate the STRS advance. We're getting close to that now. So once we know that everything is correct and verified and balanced, if you want to print the copies of the reports, this is the time you can do that. But again, they will all go out once you click on the submission file to send that over to STRS. It will go to the file archive. So the next thing to do then is generate the STRS advanced submission file. So we want to go ahead and check that box. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that. And hopefully all my reports are in balance. I didn't screw anything up by adding anything here. So I'll go ahead and submit and generate my file. So again, it's letting you know generating the submission file will put your organization in STRS advance. So again, it does let you know you have to confirm. So it's if by accident they click that when they're just running their reports, they can cancel out and it won't send it. So we're going to click continue. And again, it creates that file that you're going to use to send to STRS. So here's this what that file will look like on here. Okay. So now you can see that I'm in advance. I started the advance because now if I go to organization, I'm in advance and I got my advance amount. And of course, I probably messed something up because I had it all balanced. I had it to 60,615. So I think I must have added something in it. Oh, you know why? I did not finish my payroll. That's why, because I was doing the testing. So, so here, we'll do an example. So I accidentally put us in advance and I didn't want to. So what you would need to do, you at the ITC will go into, you can do organization detail, or you can go to configuration. Usually districts can't see that. So if you go to STRS Advanced here, you can uncheck them, get them out of advanced mode. So we're going to do an example here. And then we're going to go over here to compensation or compensation and equal of true. So you see all these employees in advance, and I did not want them to be in advance. And I actually did make a mistake because I forgot to post my last payroll for June. So I'm going to get these all out of advance. Now, again, in our documentation, I showed you here that we have this FOSS advance or to change that definition. I already imported that in. You can import that in right here. Once, if you save it on your desktop, and you can bring that in and then save it. And then it'll be loaded here. I have it, and then it'll be showing here once you save it. And here's my FOSS. So now I'm going to go and execute and submit. So now everybody is out of advance. Okay. So the next thing then, I want to go in, finish my payroll. And I want to make sure, I think I didn't save that good one, did I? So I want to make sure I didn't have that adjustment to throw my, because I had are all in balance, but I think I did. Yeah, cool. So I just want to make sure I didn't mess that up. So I'm going to go and post my payroll. Okay, so now I should be correct and ready to put myself in advance. So back to STRS, double check your dates, generate the submission file. And we're gonna go back to, you can do, you at the ITC can do the configure, the configuration under systems, but again, the district will have to go to organization. 60,000, oh, did I balance? Yay! And there's my advance pickup. So that is what I wanted it to be. So you always want to double check that compared to your report. So my STRS advance report should be that amount. So always have them double check to make sure I have that advance amount matches my organization advance STRS amount. So as of right now yet, we're not, we have not submitted. So it's still showing 2024. So we still have a couple more steps to go. So the next thing is, we need to submit that file to STRS. So if you have third-party files like Renhill that will send you a file, again, we have the documentation out here. If they do not send it to you in the correct format, I would have them send them this annual reporting record layout. Most of them know how that has to be set up in order for us to merge those two files together. So again, use this as that they can look at to help with that. Okay. So if they do have a third-party file, they would take that file from the third party plus that file we just created. I'll put the 2025 in here. So that it should be STRS Advanced 2506. Again, this will change every year. This will be just what year it is. And you take those files and you, the STRS file from Redesign, the one that we created, it's that first one, upload advanced submission file for merge. And then the third party file is this upload file to merge. And then you generate the STRS merge report. I do not have a file to do that, but you get it. but you would do that right down here. First file is the file that you just created from our system. And then the upload to file merge is the one from the Renhill, the third party, and then generate the STRS merge report. Take a look at it, make sure it looks good, that they both look merged. They're all in line, the file looks good. And then you go ahead and merge those two together. Okay. So once you've done that, that's only for employee or districts that have that third party file. So now we're going to take that STRS merge text file that you created with those words. Now, if you are you're just using the STRS advanced report, if you don't have a merge file, then you would use that one. So we're going to take that STRS merge file and choose that and upload that file to STRS, which is here. You would choose your file, the one that you saved from the STRS submission file that you created right here, and then upload it to STRS, which I cannot do because it would actually go. So you can go ahead, and that would be your last step then. So again, like I said, if you did have no third-party file, you can go ahead and upload that file to STRS right away. And you would use that STRS Advanced 2506.txt file. Once the file is submitted, you're going to see under core organization, a STRS Advanced configuration submitted to STRS. So right here, the submitted to STRS date will change to whatever date they submitted with a 2025 date. So again, under systems or organization, that date will update. So they want to come here and double check that updated to 2025. It's a biggie. That would be a big checkbox on their list to make sure that they looked at that. Okay. No, I think there was one thing I wanted to check. Okay. Oh. So the STRS annual report is going to be due on that first Friday in August, which is August 1st. So they want to make sure they get that report into STRS before that date or on that date. Okay. So what this does then, when you create that submission file and you submit it, then all the reports will go under fiscal year end report bundle under the utilities file archive 2025 fiscal year end reports. So double check, have them go to file archive for that fiscal year for 2025 and double check that these reports are there. So they should see the STRS advanced fiscal year, advanced position, and the non-advanced position reports, the employee merge and the merge STRS advanced file if they had a third party only, and then if the STRS advanced 2506. So again, they want to double check that those are there. The post fiscal year end, at this time, you can go ahead and close June for the posting period. So you would just go into your core posting and you go ahead and close. So again, now when June posting period is closed, that sets another report bundle to the file archive fiscal year end. And you're going to see attendance reports, all the benefit obligation reports by account and employee in CSV and PDF. You're going to see the leave balance reports. You're going to see the payment transaction status report, earnings register, and then your wage obligation report and employee CSV and PDF. Again, we said earlier that you could run this and keep them on your desktop if you feel safer to have a copy just in case something happens that the file archive didn't work. Stranger things have happened. And then because once you're on that first payroll in July, it's hard to get the correct amounts on these reports because they're going off the fiscal year. So again, they can do a double check or have reports printed too. So again, have them check that to make sure those report bundles are there. Very important. Okay. So then you can start creating your July of the next year, make it current and create. So now they can start their first pay in July, can start to be processed. Items to consider when they are in advance for those first coming pays, July. Regular or irregular pay types, they cannot be used for these advanced positions. For these employees, I have these advanced positions. Doc, if it was not included to prior to closing. So again, that's gonna, if they did not have that already, the doc will throw off their advance amount. Retro, termination, and payoff accrued wages. This can all affect those STRS advanced balancings at the end if you're off. So double check if you had any of these employees with this kind of pay types. If they had to modify the number of pays paid to pay off an employee, this can affect the STRS advanced balancing if they did not do that prior to closing of STRS advance for the fiscal year. During the payroll process, the fiscal year to date amounts on the payroll items, the 450, 591, 691, they will show both the advance amounts and the new earnings. So if they go to that, they're going to see both earnings. There is a behind the scene boxes that you can't see. We can turn them on so we can see the percentage of what those boxes, the 450, 591 percentages are for those advanced employees. But again, we don't want districts messing with those. So those are all behind the scene. And then the pay report list, the advance amount process. So again, the payroll item STRS advance amount on the pay report, you will be able to see that. So here's an example I just took from a pay report for a district. So every time they run a pay at the bottom of the pay items totals report, they're going to have a pay item STRS advance amount. And that should match their STRS per pay report that they send in for that pay period down here. STRS advance employer pickup. So every pay, they want to double check that these two are matching. Okay. Another thing to check on the STRS per pay report, double check the advance amount column. Make sure they're showing true, because you should have what, about four or five pays, whatever, that will have these employees showing true. Now, if you have employees on there are showing false, those are your employees that didn't advance, and then the employees with are having the new earnings already for the upcoming year. If you do have an employee that has a new earnings that are going to be paid for the new coming year, we suggest do not change the position number. If they're going to change jobs or something, do not change any positions until they are completely out of advance. Because if they start changing numbers for that employees that are in advance with those positions, or changing to 1 to 10 and then changing them, don't do that. Have them wait until the end, and then they can change that if they're changing jobs to move that new position to 1, because it will mess up the advance. And my cat's going to join me now. As the summer pays go, the process core organization, they want to double check that every day, or every time they run a pay and post it, they want to come here and make sure that amount paid back is increasing. So they want to make sure that that is getting to the amount of what we want. So after all the summer pays are completed, again, they're going to want to come back to this box. They want to verify that the STRS advance is out of advance, not checked anymore, and it's 0. So just a reminder, if the amount paid back is equal or greater than the advance amount, then the district is no longer in advance. It will come out of advance and the flag will be unchecked. Okay. If the amount paid back is less than the advance amount, then they're not going to come out of advance. It's going to be checked, and then that amount will pay, paid back value will remain. So they will have this, will still be here. So if they go in here and they still see this checked after that last pay in August, and they should be out of advance and they aren't, they're going to need to run the STRS advance report, check report, and determine what is off. STRS advance report, checks STRS advance report, excuse me. So again, that's why it's very important for them to come back to that box and double check right away after the pay. They can figure out what is wrong and get that corrected with STRS. So again, they want to run that check STRS advance report and compare the employees' totals to the STRS advance report. So again, that report is here under reports, STRS advance, and check STRS advance report. So they would want to run it for that first pay that they ran the advance to the last pay in advance. And I'm not going to get anything. So, because I don't have anybody yet. But if you run that report, then I can just kind of show you. It just will list the employees that are all in advance. And I can show you the report here. Under advance. There it is. So the report will list like just employees and the pay date of when the advance amount was, and then the total amount for each. So it's a very helpful report if you're not balancing at the end, and it gives a total STRS advance amount. So if this amount does not balance to what you have on your advance report, then you need to determine who is off, and they have to go through, they can go through each employee and determine who is off. But again, look for anybody that maybe had docs, early payoffs, those kind of things. And then again, you want to make sure they contact STRS to let them know that those are prior fiscal year corrections. And then, okay. Just a reminder on that amount paid back field, that amount is available up to the end of December of 2025. So once we flip over to the new year of 2026, then that amount is wiped out, and you can no longer get that difference on that organization on that amount. So again, have them double check that before the end of the year for sure, but they should check that at the end of the last pay of the advance anyways. So they shouldn't have that problem. But I know some districts forget. So just a reminder, it will be cleared out once we flip over to the new year. If they do need to make corrections, we do have, they can use core adjustments to take off the amounts that should have been the prior year contributions. Like if they're running the fiscal year STRS report and they see an employee that was fiscal year 24 amounts, they can use core adjustments, find the employee. The 450 is the total gross. So that would be the amount that they need to remove, negative. Check the fiscal year to date box only. And then also the 591 or the 691, just depends if they're full pickup or not. And then the amount withheld for the 591, the 691 would be the board's amount of payroll item. And that will remove them from this year's fiscal year 25 reports. And we do have that in our documentation. Right here. Go. And we also have the corrections needed if the employee was not marked for retiree, if they need to make corrections on that, and then also removing the last year's earnings and contributions. So we do have documentation out here that can help you with that too. So again, make sure the IT's checked and make sure they're out of advance. If they are not out of advance, then once they do the corrections with STRS and they figure out who the employees are, then they can go ahead and uncheck that box, the ITC, and then also ITC can go to the compensation, double check to make sure everybody equals FOSS, that there is no true left. If they do have one employee that's equal true, then they're going to want to make sure they run that mass change procedure for that employee and take them out of advance. Because if they're left in a true as advance when they're running, if they're still getting paid and their first new pay, that will show as advance earnings. So you want to make sure that they're out of advance. So always double check that too. This should all be equal FOSS and no true in there. Okay. If errors are discovered before the first pay of July, again, what I did, because I accidentally forgot to run my pay for the last pay of June, I took them out of advance. Like I said, we have our documentation where you can go and if they need help with that, right here, taking district out of advance. And then check this, and this will take you directly over to our documentation to where how you take them out of advance. Okay. So we do have all our documentation that shows that. Okay, the next, if you do, like I said, I would double check if you had a STRS advanced report and you had the total amount of employees on there of how many should be coming out of advance, then that should match your total advanced positions. So that's another way to double check that you're getting everybody out of advance that should be, and that should match if you need to do that. That was just another double check I put on there. Then once they're out of advance, the district can go back in, correct the errors that they need, and then rerun and verify reports. They want to verify all the reports again. So they'll have to regenerate all the fiscal year to date, advance in general, and generate the non-advanced position reports. And once that's corrected, generate the submission file again, and then upload that new file to STRS. But again, they have to remember if they have that third-party STRS RenHealth file, for example, they need to remerge those files again because that new generated file needs to be with that the third-party file. So they got to remember to make sure they regenerate that merge file again. If errors are discovered after the first payroll in July is posted and they cannot unpost, then they're going to have to make the corrections with STRS at that point. Okay, then at this time, the new fiscal year is 2026. So they can start adding the job calendars for 2025, 26 school year. New contracts can be entered for all the employees at this time. Non-contracts can be updated or created for fiscal year on 26. The final period L is scheduled to close on August 6th. And then once that final L and they submit their EMS final L period file, they want to make sure that they go into the EMIS reporting configuration and change that to 2026. And again, you can wait till after STRS advance is complete to do that. Again, you will find that under configuration, EMIS reporting configuration. This will have to be changed to 2026 after you're done on advance and after that report has been submitted. Okay. I just want to make sure my checklist, I went through all my checklists here. I think we hit everything pretty good. Mm-hmm. Yep, fiscal year, and then the follow-up steps. Actually, I did, when I was going through those 3 reports to run after the last May in June, you can wait to do the scheduling, the auditor state report, which we do have on number 17. So the 2 other reports are up higher in the list. And then this is probably one of the last things you would want to do is the auditor of the state report, which we do have in the fiscal year documentation. Okay, and then this was just the balancing part of it. So I think I hit everything. I think Lori had some questions in there and I think Lori hit them off. Thank you. And then just another reminder, we have upcoming Fridays with fiscal. We have the fiscal year end review for USAS and inventory. That's May 16th, which I believe that is next Friday. June 6th is the review of the May releases. June 13 is a little deeper dive into reports. This is going to be about a 3-hour session. That's for both. July 11th is a review of June releases. July 11th is the deeper dive into the grids for both. August 1st is a review of July releases. And then August 8th is the IPDIPI preview tentatively. So I just put it on there because we did have it on our list, but that could change. And then August 15 is the employee W-2 digital delivery for payroll and ESS. So those are just some upcoming ones. And again, you can find those in our ITC on our meetings and trainings if you want to sign up for those under ITC and registration. Okay. Is there any questions on anything that I have gone over today? I think Lori added some of those. So,
Andrea,
okay. Yes.
I just want to add one extra when you're going through the trainings. I haven't added it yet, and I apologize. On May 30th, that Friday, we will be covering document store.
Okay.
So I just haven't put the registration link out there yet, but I will be doing that today. So we will be covering the behind the scenes, the whole migration of the document store on that Friday.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, I think we are complete for the payroll part of the fiscal year end. And then I will let you go for today. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. It sounds like it's going to be nice here at least. So hopefully in your area, it will be nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.